You've decided to take a profit, and you've decided to let it run. And you've also decided to let the computer do both. So you know what I mean? Hey, it's Walter here, and you're at the Think Profit podcast, where we're going to help you develop a rock-solid trading confidence and avoid the potentially endless cycle of system switching. Right, Hugh?
That's right. We're going to help you develop a wealth mindset, develop a trading strategy that fits your core personality, and help you overcome the obstacles that stop over 90% of traders.
All right, Hugh, sounds good. You ready to go?
Yeah, let's do this.
Hey, Hugh, so we have a question here from a trader. He's writing in and he's like saying that he doesn't really have the patience. He knows that he needs more patience with his positions, with his winners, but he keeps pulling out of the trades, the winning trades, too quickly. And he knows that this is the case. He said, well, what should I do? And I said, well, look, this is what I would do. A couple of things you might look at doing. Number one is, first of all, you can split your positions up. So if you're worried that, you should be taking profit now because it's up, and you're worried that you're going to lose all that profit, then just split it and have some sort of a target. And then for the remaining bit, have a trailing exit, right? Which is what I like to do. I think it's kind of fun to have one. Sometimes your trailing exit will make way, way, way more, but a lot of times it may make a little bit less or around about the same as the original, the position where you had the target. That's thing number one. Thing number two is try and see if you can automate your exits. That way you don't have to think about it. So if you're going to do that, let's say I'm going to go 2-to-1. So I'm going to risk 50 pips to make 100 on half of my position. On the other half, I'm just going to run my trailing exit. You can put a script on there. It doesn't matter which platform. Almost all of them will allow you to do this. And so what that does is it takes you out of the equation. So once you take the trade, well, I've made my decision, which is to take a trade. Now the computer will do the rest. It will get me out of the at the target level, and it'll get stopped out, and it will get me out of the trailing exit, or it'll get stopped out. So it's kind of an easier way to. What's happening is you're shifting that psychological burden off of you and onto the machine. Now, you can still jump in, and you can still turn it off, and you can still all that stuff can still happen. But in theory, if you are doing this and you're doing it correctly, you're not going to have the issue of having to deal with that psychological burden of, I made the wrong decision, or and how do I know if I'm making the right decision? Because you've decided to do both. You've decided to take a profit, and you've decided to let it run. And you've also decided to let the computer do both. So you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's no longer in your hands. So that's one way to do it. And for some people, that's a really easy way to deal with that, even though, sometimes we feel like we want to make the right decision. If you do that, you're almost always, if you have a winning trade, that is. If you have a losing trade, it doesn't matter. But if you have a winning trade, it almost always feels like you've made at least a little bit of the right decision.
Hey there, I hope you're finding this episode useful. I just wanted to let you know that Walter and I give away something valuable every month that helps traders improve their skills. You can enter to win by simply leaving an iTunes review and leaving a comment on our YouTube videos. At the end of each month, we'll look at the comments and reviews from the month, and we'll pick a winner at random. Each comment and each review counts for one entry during the month that it's submitted. So if you're interested in that, be sure to enter after this podcast is over. All right, back to the episode.
If it really goes and your trailing exit is able to take some of that profit, or a big piece of that profit, you feel really good. And if it doesn't really go and your trailing exit gets a little bit, very, very small profit, or around break even, or a little bit of a loss, and then your target actually makes money for you, you feel good too. So it's kind of a nice way to deal with that. And obviously there's lots of other things that can happen, right? Like you could get stopped out, or you could lose on the trailing exit, which happens for me sometimes, and yet make money on the target, depending on how tight your trailing exit is. There's lots of things in there. It's not an either or situation. For some people, that's a very good solution. Yeah.
Yeah, those would be my first two recommendations also, but maybe like a distant third one would be just practice more, right? Like go into Forex Tester and just practice the setup and the exit, and just review your journal a lot more and look at what happens when you stick with the exit or the trailing exit. And that can help you bolster your confidence to stay in the trades, I guess.
Yeah, and I've done tests on that, like where exactly what you're saying. So you get your Forex Tester data, and you go, okay, what if I use this trailing exit versus this one? And you see the difference, and that can convince you that it really is worth it. Even a lower win rate and a trailing exit that's going to yield a lower win rate, but more profit overall, because it allows you to have really, really big winners occasionally, and that makes all the difference. So yeah, it's a good point that you should definitely think about running that sort of, I call it an exit race, where you have these two different types of exit. You want to see which one is going to be the winner here, and try that multiple times. And it can, especially if you're just using targets now and you're not using a trailing exit, like that's a real easy win in a lot of cases. Not always, but in a lot of cases. So yeah, that's a great way to show the logic of being more patient, and so it makes sense. You go, well, I can see why I should do that because it's actually going to help my trading quite a bit. So yeah.
Cool. Yeah, great point. All right. Thanks, Walter.
Thank you.
All information in this podcast is for educational and informational purposes only and is not trading or investment advice.